Hello and welcome to Y Media's 2022 provincial election debate for Brampton East. It is a pleasure to bring you the candidates here in studio. All of them were invited, from the PC candidate, the NDP candidate, the Liberal candidate, as well as the Green candidate. The ones that join us today, you'll meet them very shortly. Y Media is doing a full coverage on the election as we're live on scene and at campaign openings for candidates and holding debates to make sure that you get to hear from them about all the issues that matter most to you. I'm Ramona Singh, your moderator, and joining me is Group Editor Yudhvir Jaswal. How are you today?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much, Ramona ji, and it's great to see a lot of interesting discussions and a lot of interesting debates this time. And as a Group Editor of Y Media, I'm Yudhvir Jaswal, and we hope that you'll enjoy today's discussion. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. So going to the candidates, it's a pleasure to have them here. They've taken their time to talk to you, the viewers, the listeners, our subscribers. We're going to go into introduction. You have 2 minutes to introduce yourselves. We're going to start with NDP candidate GURRATAN Singh. Welcome.
Hello everyone, my name is GURRATAN Singh, and I want to start by thanking Y Media, Yudhvir ji, Ramona, and all the candidates for allowing this to happen today. So I love Brampton, and I'm running to be the NDP candidate, the NDP MPP rather, in Brampton East. And Brampton is a city that I'm raising my daughter in, along with my wife. And it's a city full of so many dynamic, amazing communities. But it's a city, when you talk to folks, they'll tell you it's really being left behind. So life is getting increasingly tougher for folks across the board, from the increasing cost of life, from gas to auto insurance to far more. And we know we're not getting the services that we deserve. But it didn't happen by accident. For 15 years, we've had a Liberal government that refused to invest in Brampton. And for the past 4 years, the Doug Ford Conservatives took things from bad to worse on every issue that we needed support, be it healthcare, affordability, be it the fact that we have no university. The Conservatives have made a decision to leave Brampton behind. And that's why I'm running for re-election in this election. Because it's not just about electing me as the next NDP MPP in Brampton East, it's about forming an NDP government. And by doing so, we can actually help make sure that Brampton is getting the investment that we so desperately need. We've committed to making sure that Brampton has 3 fully fledged hospitals. We've committed to making sure we end the discriminatory practice of postal code discrimination, where people are charged higher rates purely based on where they live. We have committed to making sure that the 407 is free for truckers, to ensure that we reduce gridlock across our province and the GTA. A better Brampton is possible, and with your support, we can make it happen. So on June 2nd, vote NDP, so we can once and for all make sure that Brampton gets its fair share, the investment it needs, and we can create a better community together. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Now moving on to Liberal candidate JANNAT GAREWAL. You have 2 minutes.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Y Media, for having us here today and organizing this wonderful debate. My name is JANNAT GAREWAL, and I'm your Ontario Liberal candidate for Brampton East. I have lived in this riding since 1999, and I also own a small business here as an educator. I've studied biological and physical sciences, and I've volunteered and worked with the Liberal Party for over 18 years. I worked at Queen's Park as well in 2017 as a regional advisor to the Golden Horseshoe, where I worked with policy in the regions of Peel, Halton, Hamilton, and Niagara. Stating change does not just create change, but going to policy meetings and creating town halls will. And as an educator and small business owner, over the past 2 years, I have seen the Ford government has affected our community by cutting funding in education, healthcare, and their complete disregard for small businesses. They have made it almost impossible for our students to get a proper education with their horrendous plan, which lacks structure and support for our students. They left our small businesses to fend for themselves when keeping corporations open. The cuts in healthcare have left our healthcare workers in an insufferable position. So as a longtime resident of Brampton East, I can no longer stand by what I see as a struggle of my community. This election is very important because Brampton East needs results today. As a proactive small business owner, I am willing to bring the much needed results and resources to my riding and its constituents. We have failed to see resources to support our community in the pandemic, and we now require a dire need for a strong voice in this constituency. So I encourage you to vote for the Liberal candidate, which is me, JANNAT GAREWAL, on June 2nd.
Thank you so much. Now, Green Party candidate Jamal Blackwood, you have 2 minutes.
Hi everyone, my name is Jamal Blackwood. I am your Green Party MPP candidate for Brampton East. Reasons I wanted to run is I wanted to bring new ideas to Brampton. I believe it is time that we create change and we support our youth as well who want to do more and who are looking to do more, even for the families who have been struggling within the east side of Brampton and also all over Brampton. I've committed myself to volunteering for youth because I understand what they go through and I understand the troubles they face and I understand that there is much that needs to be done. Living within Brampton for 20 years, I've seen that there is so much we can do and all it takes is a strong individual who's willing to push, and push no matter what. So we at the Green Party believe that we should not waste time anymore on old policies, but bring new policies that benefit you, the people, at the end of the day. And that is why we, the Green Party, want to make sure we do that. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Now we're moving on to the question and answer section of the debate where you'll be asked a question. You have 2 minutes to respond. If you do bring up another party, they have 1 minute for rebuttal.
Yeah, and we all know that healthcare is one of the big ticket items. As a matter of fact, the biggest spend that we do as far as the federal and even the provincial budget, that is healthcare. So my first question would be on healthcare. JANNAT, why don't I start with you? Because in the last 2 decades, Liberals have been in power. But there's a key question. Has the healthcare gone from better to worse, or has it gone any better? I want to hear your ideas today.
Of course. Thank you so much for such a great question, because healthcare is a dire issue that we're having. And as a longtime resident, I know that, you know, our healthcare system is very stressed and pressed. And I just want to remind you, like I'm sure you remember, that in 2017, we brought $451 million to the Peel Memorial rebuild that would help bring inpatient to Peel Memorial that Doug Ford did cancel when he was elected in 2018. We did open the Peel Memorial to make sure that it was an urgent care center. So we have always invested in healthcare. We have always made sure that healthcare was a priority in our community. But now, after seeing 4 years of a pressed system, we are aware that we need to repeal Bill 124, first and foremost. We need to take care of our healthcare workers. We need to invest more money into the healthcare system. We want to open Peel Memorial and bring a 3rd hospital. It is one of the pressing issues that Stephen Del Duca also understands. As we've rebranded our party, our values are still in line with healthcare.
Yeah, but your party was in power for quite some time in the last 2 decades, but we haven't seen the healthcare right across the province, or even for that matter in Brampton, it didn't improve.
So again, as a new party, we do understand that, you know, there are shortcomings, but we are moving forward. We have a new plan. We have a fully costed platform. And in that platform, we have priorities for Brampton to have a fully open Peel Memorial Hospital. We are pushing for 3,000 beds, and we are pushing to create a 3rd new hospital.
3rd new hospital. All right, thanks. Jamal, what are the plans as far as the Green Party is concerned, and what do you prescribe?
When it comes to the Green Party, we want to make sure that when it comes to building a hospital, that we're building a hospital that is used by green technologies, green resources. We want to make sure that the people who are coming to the hospital are able to really benefit from the hospital. There's too much overcrowding within Brampton Civic, and we've also seen the healthcare workers who faced so much during the COVID times that they need to know they are respected. They need to know that they are treated as heroes, as they are. And it is time for the party, the Green Party. We want to make sure that all healthcare workers within all healthcare sectors are paid what they deserve, not just a fair wage, but a wage that they deserve. It is time that we pay them the respect. And it is also time that, once again, we use green resources, green technology, to really make sure when we're building a hospital, it is a hospital that is going to benefit the environment, but of course benefit the local community members and to benefit the local businesses as well.
All right, and if I may ask, Jamal, what is your idea of bringing the foreign trained professionals? We have lots of doctors and nurses. What's the idea for Green Party? Are you going to integrate them, and if at all, how would you do that?
Well, that's a wonderful question. We want to make sure that they are given the resources that they need, and once again, that starts with the wages. Another thing that also goes to is making sure that we have free mental health care under OHIP. We want to make sure that all all doctors, anybody who is coming to work within these healthcare sectors, within the hospital, is given what they need and make sure that they are safe in where they are.
All right, and I'll quickly move on to NDP candidate GURRATAN. GURRATAN, in your case, I've heard lots of promises for Brampton particularly. Your leader was there for quite some time. But why would we believe her? We've been hearing all these promises before as well. Yes, as much as I agree, Brampton needs 3 hospitals. We have seen multiple hospitals in similar populations, whether it's Mississauga or even Hamilton, as your leader was mentioning. I heard her. Second point she mentioned in the debate about a woman she met at Fort Erie, which is living in Fort Erie and working in Buffalo. So these are the 2 points I want you to touch, but I've been hearing these promises for the last 20 years, and I think our viewers will definitely want to know, why would we believe NDP, your leader, or yourself?
A great question, Yudhirji. This is the reality. When we door knock and when I talk to folks, they talk about how painful the healthcare crisis is in Brampton right now. I talked to a young family, and she described that when her child got sick, they went to Brampton Civic. They spent 6 or 7 hours. They could not get care. They then went to 2 other hospitals before getting the care that their child needed. And as a new father myself, I couldn't imagine how terrible that would be. When your child is sick, you want to get them help when they need it right away, and they couldn't get that help. And it's not by accident. Brampton has been underfunded for far too long by Liberal and Conservative governments. They both left Brampton behind. They made a decision to make sure Brampton doesn't have more than 1 hospital. And that's the impact of it. We in the NDP, we're fighting because we know we deserve better. We deserve to live in a city that has, just like Windsor, 2 hospitals, or just like Hamilton and just like Mississauga, more than 3 for Hamilton and 3 in Mississauga. We deserve to have that same kind of health care. But when you have Doug Ford's Conservatives and the Liberals before them gutting our health care, refusing to invest, this is the reality. Now, I'm in opposition. In opposition, my job is to make noise. And I make a lot of it. But this election is different because we can form government. And when we form government, we will ensure that Brampton has the healthcare investment that we deserve to make sure that families like that young family I spoke with had the ability to get the care they needed when they needed it.
How will you give that sort of assurance? That's the key. I think we all understand the problem. It's quite obvious. Thanks for explaining it. But how would our viewers believe that you would actually do it if NDP forms the government?
Really, really good question, Judvijir. And it's about priorities. Now, we're the NDP. We're the party of healthcare. We have universal healthcare in Canada because of the NDP. This is our core tenet and core belief. We're not here to bring in policies that benefit rich developers like Doug Ford and Conservatives who just want to help their insider buddies all the time. We're here to help people. And for us, the greatest way we can help people is make sure that people have the dignity to invest and live and go to a hospital in their own community. And that's what we're committed to doing.
All right, thanks. We wish we had the PC party candidate here as well to defend their record in the last 4 hours. But as you've already explained, we did invite all the candidates, but the PC party candidate is missing. Please.
We give 1 minute rebuttal to the Liberal candidate.
Thank you so much. And, I think it's so important that, my opponent addressed that he is in opposition, but remember that $451 million was on the table to, help support Peel Memorial with inpatient care. And, if you're making noise and your counterparts aren't listening to you, you need to make sure that you're working with your counterparts to make sure that money stays on the table. Like, we have members in Brampton as well. We have Brampton South and Brampton West who I'm sure needed that funding. So why weren't counterparts worked with? Why was that money let go off the table? We need to make sure that that money that was on the table, we are keeping it there, and we are making sure when we're elected, we will make sure we're putting money on the table to build Peel Memorial and a 3rd new hospital.
All right, 30 seconds.
The reality is this. We know that Doug Ford and the Conservatives don't care. They've left our city behind, and we can fight, we can scream, but the reality is until we form government, we will not get the change that we require. That's why the NDP, we are committed to fighting. We'll never give up. But this election, by forming NDP government, we can finally ensure that we get the healthcare investment our city actually deserves.
Jamal, 30 seconds.
At the end of the day, we want to make sure that new ideas are brought to the table. We've had one party say this, we've had one party say this. We've given the chance to both parties, and this is why the NDP, when it comes to the Green Party, we want to make sure that the new ideas are brought to the table. At the end of the day, new ideas are brought to the table. we should stop reverting back and move forward.
Thank you so much. Moving on to the second question, it's about the environment. The NDP, Liberals, and Greens have all committed to a target of cutting emissions to 50% below 2005 levels by 2030. The PC's emission target is at 30% below 2005 levels by 2030. What steps will your party take once it forms government to support the growth of clean energy industry and create clean energy jobs? And we're going to start with the Green Party candidate, Jamal Blackwood. You have 2 minutes.
Perfect. So at the Green Party, we want to make sure that we're supporting net zero renovations. So for example, we want people who live in homes to bring retrofit to their homes. And we want to do that by providing incentives. Those incentives, as our leader party, Mike Schreiner, has said, $10,000 to $15,000 as an incentive when people living in Brampton want to retrofit their homes. We also want to make sure there's a full cost of percentage of social housing units, retrofits, and low-income households. No matter what, at the end of the day, we want to make sure that we're able to support Brampton in a new way. It is time for Brampton to go in a new direction that benefits the people living there. It benefits the economy. It benefits the small businesses as well. And by doing these and by taking these steps, we will be able to get to a better economy.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Liberal candidate?
So we are committed to the environment. We want to plant trees. We want to stop the 413. But most importantly, right now, I think $1 transit, Buck-a-Ride province-wide, is really supporting our environment because it will get 400,000 car trips off the road, which will save carbon emissions. We are working towards bringing back the rebate that the Ford Conservatives they canceled. That's a $9,500 in savings. It's an $8,000 rebate for the electric vehicle and then $1,500 rebate for the charging equipment, which will motivate our community to go green. I think if we start by leading by example, other people will follow. So by bringing in these rebates, we are making sure that we are leading by example in this initiative.
Thank you. And NDP candidate, GURRATAN SINGH?
Whenever we talk about the climate or the environment, we have to just take a minute to recognize that it's quite possibly the greatest crisis that we're facing right now as humanity. And anytime I think about this issue around climate, I always think of a young volunteer we have named Leonella, and how committed she is towards issues around social justice and climate and the environment. And I think with the fact that it's young people like her who didn't create this climate crisis who are now having to deal with it. They have to now live in this world where we have these climate crises happening across the world, and we're seeing it here at home as well. Forest fires are happening from Vancouver to here and locally in Ontario at alarmingly increasing rates. And climate change is something that's so real and it's so tangible. We're seeing it every moment. And it's those young people who have to deal with it, and it's so unfair. But the result and the reality of it, this is the result of years of inaction by government. And Doug Ford and the Conservatives, since getting elected, have done step after step, action after action to take strikes against environmental policy. They've ripped up green contracts. They pulled out charging stations out of the walls. They have targeted our green spaces time and again. They have done everything possible to set us back with respect to our environmental goals. We in the NDP, we've put forth the Green New Democratic Deal, and in it, it's ambitious and it's bold. It is a very bold plan to bring in green jobs, to go towards net zero, because this is a sustainable future that young people like Leonella deserve, and it's something that we in the NDP are committed to fighting for.
Thank you. And at this point, we're going to start our open discussion forum. In this, you will have 4 minutes. And I'll definitely pick a candidate to start on one of the topics, and then feel free to join us. Any of the other candidates, they can feel free to join us anytime. So this is an open discussion forum. One of the key words in media, and some people say we really know your favorite word is infrastructure. Why my favorite word is infrastructure? Infrastructure, because precisely this is the word which sets us apart from any other place. Infrastructure, whether it's transit, highways, stadiums, hospitals, schools, all this infrastructure, definitely we're going to discuss right now. And one of the key points, let's start with the key point. the PC parties are saying that we're going to build Highway 413, and there has been a strong opposition from almost all three parties, and we'll certainly like to know the views. Jannat, why don't I start with you? What's your personal position and the party's position on Highway 413?
We're scrapping it, and as I've said time and time again, the priority is education. We have seen what the Ford's cuts in education have done to this community. I have a tutoring center in Brampton East, and I have seen so many students struggling to keep up with the online classroom. I think there were so many different strategies that could have gone by, but cutting in education is not one of them, and it affected a lot of parents during this pandemic. We have seen so many moms stressing out because they're sitting on Zoom every day, making sure their little one or their high school student is getting the proper education that they deserve. And they're working tirelessly to make their ends meet at home, but these funding cuts did not help us. So we are taking the $10 billion and we are repurposing it. We love infrastructure, but schools need to be built. There is a school in our riding, it's called Castlebrook, and they have 2,000 children in that school. And those 2,000 children, we are bringing a 20-child cap per classroom because we want to make sure they're getting the attention that they deserve after this disastrous COVID plan that the Ford government had created. They're saying that their education minister was the best education minister, but everyone in Brampton East knows that that is not true. So we are definitely investing in education, the infrastructure, the schools, renovations, and classroom sizes. We're hiring 10,000 teachers. We're using that money to better use.
You guys have 2.5 minutes. You can join on the conversation.
So we have this issue around infrastructure and this discussion around 413. And I was just talking today with a bunch of people in the trucking community. And you may have heard we did a really exciting announcement today. And they were discussing how bad trucking is faced with congestion and traffic on the roads, how truckers are really struggling with increasing wait times. It's impacting them economically, their lifestyle, everything, right? A drive that took 40 minutes are now taking, an hour and a half or 2 hours. And we need a solution, and we need to believe we must develop and invest in infrastructure. But this plan that Doug Ford's putting out with Highway 413 has no clear cost and no clear timeline. The only thing we do know is that the developers around 413 have given the Conservatives almost $1 million in donations. That's why today we announced that we can't afford to wait for maybe a potential highway in 10 years. People need relief right now. And the best way to make that relief possible while protecting the environment and making sure we are acting in a responsible manner is making the 407 free for truckers. And
you're making 407 free, but how would you offset set the cost?
Great question. Last year, the 407 operators actually owed $1 billion in penalty because they have these minimum traffic amounts that they have to hold on to, they have to maintain. And because they couldn't maintain that level, they were fined, they owed $1 billion in penalty. But Doug Ford decided to forgive that penalty. So if we just get the penalties that the 407 duly owes, that'll in itself pay for about 10 years of our plan. It's a $4 billion investment over 30 years. The penalties themselves will take us towards 10 years. The rest is around $3 billion for following 20 years. And we'll always look to those who have the most wealth to give a little bit more so we can ensure truckers, commuters, people don't have to face hours in commute and they can live a better life.
Yes, anybody else you want to say anything?
30 seconds.
Well, this plan is not costed. It's not in their platform. They're releasing versions of their platform almost every day now. And again, it's not costed. And if the fee was waived, we definitely should be looking at that. It's a true fact that Doug Ford waived $1 billion in fees to help his corporation buddies, but it's not costed in their platform. And if it's waived, how could you bring it back? If the fees are waived, how can you bring it back and make them pay $1 billion if it's already waived?
Yeah, these are merely your viewpoints on the developers and all these things. Yeah. And I wish the PC candidate was here to defend all that. Jamal, very quickly, we're running out of time.
However, I believe that instead of the $10 billion spent on a highway, that $10 billion can be spent on the hospital that, once again, we were promised from how many years ago. And this is where we have the opportunity to do that.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'll once again remind all our candidates that in the open discussion forum, we have approximately 4 minutes. So we'll just pick one candidate to start, but feel free to join anytime within those 4 minutes. And Ramona, will keep you posted on that, please.
Absolutely. So the next topic is our favorite topic. It's about Brampton. and Brampton receiving its fair share. What are some of the things you'd like to see in Brampton?
Oh, I think what is there in Brampton? As much as I've lived all my life in Brampton since moving to Canada, I think Brampton is missing on all the aspects. We do not have a university. We do not have a good transit system. The LRT, we missed on that opportunity. We do not have hospitals. I think 3 hospitals, full-fledged 24-hour emerge. That's what we need over there. And given a choice, I think I would certainly want to have a stadium. We could make Brampton a hub of activity. Why can't we make Brampton the place where you have the international cricket tournaments, international field hockey games here in Brampton? This could act as a hub. If Odisha can become, outside Punjab, this is the first time I've seen if outside Punjab, Odisha can become the hub of field hockey, why can't Brampton become the hub of field hockey and cricket?
Do you know what I want to see? I want to see actually it become a trade, a commerce center. It is only a few kilometers away from Canada's largest airport, Pearson Airport. It has like connections to around the world. Imagine if Brampton had a 5-star hotel, massive convention, state-of-the-art that could host trade for commerce and all of that, to have all the foot traffic. That would be great to bring some money into the economy here. But now I'm going to start the conversation with you. You have 4 minutes. We're going to start with GURRATAN Singh.
So when we talk about infrastructure in Brampton, we know we need it. And just to add on to your points, you know, arts and culture, like Brampton is the home to people like Rupi Kaur, internationally known author, Fateh, an artist that really blew up here in Brampton for the amazing, dynamic combination of rap and bhangra and everything. Alicia Clara, like we have so much amazing talent from Brampton, and we do need greater infrastructure. But when I door knock and I talk to folks, it's so sad to say that they're really just focused right now at the bare minimum, because that's how tough life is right now. They're just thinking about hospitals. Like they want to be able to, when their child is sick, they want to be able to live in a city where their child can get to a hospital right away and be seen in a timely way. When you talk about commuters, they want to have access to good transit. They want to have the ability to get where they need to go when they need to get there. We as a city have been left behind for far too long. And the reality is we've been left behind because of actions from Liberals and Conservatives. For 15 years, we've seen Liberals leave Brampton behind. And they refuse to make the investment our city needed. And beyond that, we've seen 4 years of Conservatives who have once again voted no to building a hospital in Brampton, in terms of building 3 hospitals in Brampton. They voted no to making sure our city has the ability to have affordable and supportive lifestyle with respect to so many affordability issues. They refuse to take action on auto insurance, which continues to explode out of control. So we require change. We require a better system and a better future, and that's why we in the NDP were saying this. We are going to make sure Brampton has the investment that we require. We get our fair deal. That means healthcare investment. That means investment in our education, bringing a university to our city that we so desperately need, that was canceled by the Conservatives. It means making sure we have the investment across the board. That's the better Brampton we can have, and that's what we in the NDP are committed towards building.
I think that my opponent for the NDP forgot that we actually had $500 million set for the Brampton University with the Ryerson Sheridan merger for a degree diploma program that everyone in Brampton was so excited for. But the Conservative Doug Ford, once he was elected, again canceled that funding. And again, our opposition refused to stand up for what Brampton deserves. So if you're supposed to be making noise, why was this money again taken off the table? We keep going back to how we're not providing infrastructure. We had the money there. It was there. We were ready for it. We had negotiated everything. We were talking to City Council. As a regional advisor, we were talking to City Council all the time. We were for the LRT. We were for the infrastructure. And the university was agreed upon, but Doug Ford canceled it. So again, I know that Hardeep is not here our opponent is not here to give us information, but that was so important to our community, to bring infrastructure, to bring livelihood. Youth bring livelihood to our community. So it's so important that we could have had that so that our children don't have to commute outside of Brampton. But again, Buck a Ride is also going to increase our transit. We're going to be increasing transit use by bringing Buck a Ride, because we will be bringing affordability. Affordability is a major crisis that we're dealing with right now. Families want to make sure that they're getting, you know, they're getting taken care of. So we are bringing $2,750 per child, because we know how hard it was during the pandemic for families.
At the end of the day, a lot of my opponents both speak on youth. However, you guys, my moderators, you guys have always said, what about new ideas, new ideas, new ideas? And this is where we could support our youth. Let's make sure that we're supporting the libraries, for example, unfreezing the funding so that they could support the youth. They could also support newcomers who are coming into Brampton. Let us look into also another new ideas that we could bring in youth facilities, youth hubs, but once again, that provide the opportunity for youth and give them the resources to help them once they're navigating through high school, elementary, and also post-secondary school.
Thank you. In the 4 minutes, just jump in whenever you need to, and then usually the other candidate will
back up.
Yeah, I've seen that happen. And the next question.
Yeah, sure. I think one of the number one issues that our Ontarians are facing, I'm sure Canadians and as much as this issues across the globe, that's affordability. And this has been the number one on all the surveys. Jamal, why don't I start with you this time? What are your plans for affordability?
Yeah, so when it comes to affordability, once again, we want to make sure that people in Brampton are able to afford their homes. So we want to make sure, once again, we're building proper infrastructure that benefits the local community members and the local businesses. We want to make sure that when we're building homes, we're building up. We're using the proper space. We're not just wasting the space that we have, and we use it properly. Once again, if there's infrastructure that's going to happen, we need to make sure that it benefits you. We need to make sure that benefits your family. We need to make sure that we're also using our infrastructure that benefits your youth at the end of the day. So we want to build up. We want to make sure that homes are being provided green spaces. We're using green technology, green resources. Also within that, it allows everybody within homes to even save money as well.
Affordability is an incredibly important issue. And when I door knock, it's probably the number one issue when we're hitting doors right now. And from the rising cost of gas to car insurance. And I think in Brampton particularly, when you talk about affordability, it's sad to say that car insurance is, for some households, the number one expense. I was talking to someone from Brampton East named Girit, and she described how her mother, her father, her brother, and herself, they combined pay more in car insurance than the household mortgage. But that's not by surprise, that's by action. Previous Liberal and Conservative governments have given billion-dollar car insurance companies the free pass. They've said, you are allowed to charge folks based on their postal code. How does that make sense? Why should someone, like this family in mind, they all have clear driving records. They drive affordable vehicles. They have no tickets, no claims, but they're being punished for living in Brampton. And that is shameful, and it's wrong. And it's because of decisions made by Conservatives and Liberals who've allowed this to happen. And that's why we in the NDP, we have said it, and we've announced this very clearly. We are going to cancel and end postal code discrimination. We're going to make sure that people are paying car insurance based on their driving record, not based on where they live. That's how we'll be actually allowing people to save as much as $2,000 a year by canceling postal code discrimination. That's the fair, better life that people deserve, and that's what we in the NDP are committed for.
So the Liberal government did actually reduce auto insurance, and I have locally worked with a regional councillor who brought forward a motion to end postal code discrimination, which we accomplished before the NDP while they were in opposition. I think we the NDP members have been my member, Brampton East, for 12 years now. You keep bringing up auto insurance, but there's no action behind this. Like you can make a TikTok, you can make a video to inform the community, but it is also so important at this moment where you go to policy meetings, you go to town halls, where I have not seen the NDP member. We've had community safety town halls where the member has not showed up. We've brought a community police station we're bringing a community police station to Gore Meadows Community Center to increase patrolling, but those town halls, our member is not present. So we're talking, when we go door knocking, affordability is an issue, but people are talking about affordability for gas, which we have promised to decrease today by 5.7 cents per liter, and we're going to be decreasing fuel tax by 5.3 cents a liter.
30 seconds.
We're bringing real results. Our platform is completely costed to make sure that we are addressing the affordability issue. We are the only party that is talking about how inflation is affecting seniors at this time. We are giving them $1,000 top up in their old age security. We need to make sure we're bringing real results. We've been talking about this issue for 12 years now. There's no result for it. So we brought 19 items on our agenda to bring affordability, which puts $1,000 into our community's pockets.
Thank you.
$1 transit saves you
Time's up.
$270 per month.
Thank you.
Sorry about that.
Thank you. We're moving on to the next discussion, which is about crime and law enforcement. Toronto had a very violent start this year with 5 killings in just the first 3 days of 2022. In Peel Region for Q1, homicide, robberies, break-and-enter, auto theft are all up compared to last year. What is your party's plan to address the rise in crime? And we're going to start with the Liberal candidate, JANNAT GAREWAL.
So again, just like I said, we've been working diligently on the issue of crime. Every third house you go to when we're door knocking, especially in specific areas, there is a carjacking. I went door knocking, and after 8 p.m. last month, one of the mothers was like, we can't let our grandmother go out for a walk because we don't know who's on the street. And she enjoys her walk because the weather's now nice. It's so important that we keep our community safe, especially in Brampton East, where we have a little bit less patrolling. So I have worked with the regional councillor in my riding to make sure that we're bringing a Peel Police community station to Gore Meadows. This is something that we've actively been passionate about because we want to keep our children safe. As an educator, as a small business owner, it is so important that we keep our community safe, and this is not a priority. We want to ban guns. Guns do not belong on our streets. They do not belong in around our children. So we are banning guns. We are accepting the federal government's offer to fund a buyback program. We are creating action. So it's so important that we focus on keeping our community safe at all times.
It's a really important issue, and it really is something that when we door knock, we do hear a lot, specifically about car theft. And in streets in Brampton East, there's one street in particular where it's like 3 different people in that, families on that street had called saying each and every one of them had experienced a car theft in a very short period of time. And we know it's something that's on top of people's minds. People want to live in safe communities. People deserve to live in safe and healthy and happy communities. And we need to start thinking about what are the ways we can do that. And of course, one of it is making sure that police services get the funding that they need, but we also need to start thinking about building up communities. And how do we build up those communities? And communities that are healthy, safe, that have good jobs are safer communities as well. And that's why I think we can't look at safety as purely, we have to look at it holistically, and we must assure that the requisite funding is there from a police services perspective. But in addition, we need to look at those other impacts, those other issues that impact safety. And I think a city that has a university, a good education system, that has good health care, that has good jobs, where people have affordable lives, where car insurance is affordable, gas is affordable. I think these are all contributing factors to creating safe communities. And that's why we, the NDP, are committed to making sure that we do build up communities. And building up communities means making sure Brampton has 3 full-fledged hospitals with ERs. It means making sure Brampton has a university. It makes sure that Brampton is not a sleeping city and there's jobs located within our community. That's how we ensure that we're living and creating a city that's a work, live, play community. We in the NDP are committed to it. We have always been committed towards building healthy, safe communities. And hopefully with the support of people across Ontario on June 2nd, with their support, with their vote, we can make it possible by voting in and electing in an NDP government.
And we also want to make sure, once again, we are providing the safe spaces for our youth. We have to bring it back that Brampton has a lot of youth within the east side as well who do go to schools, elementary schools within the area, and who will be attending these universities. So why aren't we also focusing on providing the safe spaces for our youth? Our youth will be going outside as it is summertime. So we want to focus on make sure they are okay on mental health as well, making sure that we're able to provide free mental health under OHIP. And we want to give those safe spaces for our youth to go to, such as the youth facility, such as youth hub. And once again, it provides that green, and it would also help them build up their skills and give, once again, the safe space that they need.
Thank you so much. Moving on to the next question.
I'm sure all our viewers and all our candidates would agree that housing crisis, I won't even call it an issue anymore, it's become a crisis. I want to hear your ideas. How would you propose to solve, as much as, yes, the federal government has a role to play, municipal, but at the provincial level? What is your solution? Jamal, why don't we start with you?
Yeah, so when it comes to housing, Ontario Greens have a masterclass housing affordability strategy that is about getting spectators out and making sure we can level the playing field so that people at home, people within Brampton can afford the homes. We want to make sure we put a tax also on the vacant house that spectators, either international or domestic, have on the house where they're parking lucrative cash. Once again, this doesn't benefit people within our community. And this is where we as a province need to make sure that we are focusing at home and make sure that you, the people, have somewhere to be. We want to make sure that you have a safe home, that you have the home that you wanted, that you want and that you need, so that also your kids have the home that they want and they need, and that all is safe when you vote Green.
It's a really big issue, this issue of housing, and particularly the fact that housing has now become, for so many people, the dream of owning a home has become a dream. And that's so wrong. There are people who now are professionals who are doing really well and have great benefits and everything, but they can't afford a home to live in. And that is truly an injustice, and it's a travesty. But it's, once again, it is not by mistake. It's because of decisions made by Liberal and Conservative governments. We've seen it over the past 4 years under Doug Ford, housing prices have almost doubled. And the provincial government plays a role in ensuring we have houses that people can afford. We have seen housing become so out of reach that people they're just consigning themselves to either live in a house that they can barely afford the rent, or they can barely afford the mortgage, or they can't afford any at all. And that's wrong. And that's why we in the NDP are saying people deserve better. And we're committed to making sure that people can afford homes. And how can we do that? So first off, we do need to go after speculators. We need to go after billionaires. We need to go after these foreign investors who are just buying homes for the sake of making money off it, as opposed to living in it. And they're putting their foreign money here instead of and buying out and costing people out of the market. We'll also need to make sure we're providing support to people with their purchase of their first home. And that's why we in the NDP, in our plan to make housing something more accessible to people, we're going to help first-time home buyers with their down payment. We're going to make sure that we go after these speculators. We go after these foreign investors and billionaires. We're going to go after folks who are just trying to flip to make a quick buck, and instead focus on allowing people to have access to that right of a home and making sure it's something that is no longer a dream. People should be able to have the home of their dream, and we're going to make that happen with the NDP.
So our plan is actually it's much more specific. To be honest, the Ontario Liberal Party, we will be building at least 1.5 million new homes in the next 10 years. With that, we will be building at least 138,000 affordable homes, deeply affordable homes, to support our housing and homes for our community. Every dollar that is invested in housing basically will create $1.40 in economic growth, and our housing plan will create 150,000 jobs. Okay, we are going to tax homes that are sitting empty. We're using a use it or lose it levy, which is going to make sure that we're taxing developers' land currently sitting empty. This will help our community. And we're creating the Ontario Home Building Corporation to finance and build affordable homes. We have an actual plan, a costed platform, in order to do this, in order to support our community, that is not vague, and we have the numbers that's in our costed platform.
Right. And I wish we had more time, but I think we're approaching our last segment, and Ramona ji, you'll take over.
Thank you so much. We've heard a lot about education in this election cycle, where parties want to cap classroom sizes, build more schools, or repair the backlogs of schools. Now, what is your education plan, and why is it better than the other party? And we're going to start with GURRATAN Singh, the NDP candidate.
Thank you so much. And when we start talking about education, we need to take a moment just to recognize how tough it's been for families over the past 2 years. And when we talk about the devastating cuts to education that came under Doug Ford, We're talking about even the most recent budget, upwards of or around $1.3 billion cut to education. He had a very clear agenda since day one, Doug Ford, and it's to attack public education, and it's wrong. And we know that families deserve better. I was outside of a school recently talking to families, and they were talking about how much they rely on public education. It is truly a great equalizer for our society. It's a pillar, and we need to stand up for it. And that's why I'm honored that the NDP candidates across Brampton have received the endorsement of the Ontario Secondary Student Teachers Federation, because they recognize that we in the NDP are in the best position to protect public education. We're in the best position to make sure that we stop Doug Ford's continual cuts.
I would like to
And so-
disagree because, I'm sorry, respectfully, because we saw that during the school closures, class averages have been so low. I teach students on a daily basis, especially high school. They do not have the algebra, fractions, foundations that they need to pass these courses. During the pandemic, for the first part of it, you guys gave children their midterm marks and told them that was their final mark. When they got to the next year, they did not have the foundations from the previous course to help them in the current. And, you know, I didn't hear my opponent talk about how children need to be in school. The federal government gave Ford's government about $75 million to keep our children safe, and they did not use that. Instead, they cut $1.3 billion, and I didn't hear anyone opposing the education plan, and I don't think that it's
Just to finish my earlier point, because you interrupted me, the point is actually very clear. We in the NDP have continually stood up to every single one of Doug Ford's cuts, and that's exactly why we in the NDP have gotten the support of Ontario's Secondary Teachers Federation, because they recognize that we have been stalwart defenders. We've been fighting Doug Ford's cuts tooth and nail, from opposition day motions in Parliament to questions to everything possible. But the reality is this: we know that Doug Ford's only in it for his insider friends and buddies. He's not in it for everyday folk. And he is someone who's going to continually cut education. And that's why we need to elect the NDP. The reality is this: the Liberals left Ontario with a $15 billion repair backlog. They had 15 years, and they refused during that period to invest in our schools. They refused to take the necessary steps and actions. We in the NDP are not going to do that. We are committed to better education. We are committed to public education, and that comes with capping class sizes. That comes with hiring teachers and education workers. That comes with investing in public education. That means making sure that young people can go to the best schools in the world through public education. And that's what we in the NDP are committed to, and we're going to fight to make sure it happens.
So the cap and trade in 2017, before it was canceled, it had generated about $18 billion or million dollars, sorry, and we put that all towards education. Everything that came from cap and trade, if you check, went to educational funding. It went to the district school boards. I was there for the announcements and the rollouts, and we did not keep a single penny or a dime to ourselves. So we have always invested in education. So it's incorrect to say that we have not invested in education.
These are just the factors that after 15 years of Liberals, we had a $15 billion backlog in school education, in school repairs.
But we have invested. We didn't keep money
guys.
just like the Ford government.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. We wish we had more time. First of all, I'd like to compliment all the three candidates that are here.
This is really fantastic. This is a really cordial and enjoyable conversation, and I want to thank you all. This is really enjoyable.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. I think it was quite cordial. And one thing which really excites me, and today once again we have such young and bright candidates. I'll leave it up to the viewers to decide who they want to pick. But we definitely did invite candidates from all the different parties. I thoroughly enjoyed the discussion. NDP candidate GURRATAN Singh, thank you so much for joining us. Green Party candidate Jamal Blackwood. Jamal, thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you.
Thank you.
And JANNAT, I'd like to thank you as well, the Liberal Party candidate from Brampton East. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
You are very welcome. One of the best ways, of course there are other ways as well, one of the best ways to really support the community, serve the community is joining in politics and getting elected as a leader. So I am thoroughly enjoying this discussion. Thank you so much.
And also is to be a leader like yourself, Yudhvirji, and help promote and create platforms like this for us to share our views. So we need to recognize media and the amazing work that you do in allowing us to have this platform to share our thoughts.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for those kind words. Wouldn't have been possible without the support of the community and support like youngsters like you. It's so exciting to see you joining the politics.
I should have said leaders like you and Ramona.
Welcome.
Yes,
you.
exactly. You're
Thank
both
you.
amazing leaders.
Thank you.
so much.
Thank you for the kind words. Thank you so much once again.
you.
Thank you. And I'll encourage all our viewers to definitely watch all these debates because you keep asking us which party should we vote, what is your perspective, without blurring the lines. We cannot name any party or any candidate, but I'll definitely say one thing for sure. Competence, that should be the criteria for selecting any candidates. Please do watch all the debates. You'll get a fair idea. Here you could watch all the press conferences, but here we are, candidates in front of each other. They get time for open discussions, and it's so nice to listen to all these brilliant ideas. Thank you so much once again. All these debates you can watch on Channel Y, which is available on Rogers 857, Bell 828, Telus 2418, and on Ignite 707. Also, all these debates will be available on our YouTube platform, which is Y Media. These debates will be, a brief synopsis will be published in our newspaper midweek, and the audio will be used on Radio Y, FM 91.9. Thank you so much for joining us on these debates. Ramona ji, your final thoughts.
Yes, absolutely. But before my final thoughts, I'm going to give the candidates a closing remarks. You can start with the Liberal candidate, JANNAT GAREWAL. You have 2 minutes.
Thank you so much. As a small business owner, again in Brampton East, I believe the Ontario Liberal plan is made to support small businesses. I know we didn't get to talk about them much, but we want to lead them onto the road of success. Small businesses make up so much of our community in Brampton East, and they were closed for 18 months, and we had no one to defend us, but we still made it through. A lot of us did, but the ones that didn't, we do want to support. And as a small business owner, I'm going to be a strong voice for this community, for the children, for families. We have a fully costed platform that is going to bring $1 transit, saving Bramptonians $270 a month. We are going to be removing incorporation fees so that young entrepreneurs can start up at minimal cost. We will be eliminating corporate tax for small businesses who are affected for 2 years, and we'll be working tirelessly to rebuild Ontario. We will be investing $10 billion in schools, bringing a living wage to the province, investing in home care for seniors who want to age at home, and providing $1,000 top up to their old age security. The Ontario Liberal Party is looking out for our community's best interests. My values do line up with them, and we want to make sure that we are not being tone deaf to our community like the other parties have, by cutting funding to our constituents that they needed, by taking a passive role to fighting for what we deserve in this community. I have been watching for 4 years now as a small business owner, as an educator in Brampton East. We cannot afford to move forward with their antics. So Brampton East can count on me to be there. Advanced voting has started at Gore Meadows Community Centre and the Hampton Inn. So please cast your vote. My name is JANNAT GAREWAL, and I'm your Ontario Liberal candidate for Brampton East.
Thank you so much. Moving to closing remarks, GURRATAN Singh, please.
Thank you so much. Brampton is a dynamic and amazing city, but it's a city that has been left behind for far too long. For 15 years, Liberals decided to leave Brampton behind. In that time, they refused to bring the investment in healthcare that our city needed. They allowed billion-dollar car insurance companies to rip off Bramptonians and charge them higher rates purely based on their postal code. And they refused to bring in the investment across the board to allow people to live their best lives. Doug Ford got elected, and he did the exact same thing, but he went from bad to worse, continuing to vote no to building 3 hospitals in Brampton, taking no action to reducing car insurance rates, and canceling Brampton's university. Brampton deserves better, and we in the NDP are committed to making sure that better Brampton is possible. But the NDP is the only option to beat Doug Ford. We can form government, and by doing so, we will build a better Ontario and a better city. We've committed to making sure Brampton has 3 fully fledged hospitals with emergency rooms. We've committed to ending the discriminatory practice of postal code discrimination, saving Bramptonians as much as $2,000 a year in a reduction in car insurance premiums. And just today we announced that an NDP government would make the 407 free for commercial truck drivers. That would literally save truckers thousands of dollars every single year. And in addition, it will create such a relief in gridlock. We're talking something like 12 to 21,000 trucks every single day moving off 400 series highways and onto the 407. That's going to create so much a reduction in traffic and congestion. It's going to create a better life for folks. A better Brampton is possible, a better Ontario is possible. So on June 2nd, vote for the NDP. Advanced voting is open, so vote for the NDP today. You're able to do that at Gore Meadows and at Hampton Inn. And together we can build a more just, equitable, and fair Brampton together. Thank you so much. My name is GURRATAN Singh, your NDP candidate for Brampton East.
Thank you. Jamal Blackwood, the Green candidate.
First off, I want to just thank you guys for having me here. And, you know, to touch back again, you guys have always spoke on new ideas, new things for Brampton, and of course, we all can agree that we want better for Brampton. However, when we speak about politics, I would like to speak about family. We at the Green Party put people first. We want to put your family first. We want to make sure that you and your family are safe. We want to make sure that everybody who lives in Brampton is taken care of. Within the Green Party, this is something that we cherish the most, putting people first and politics last. No matter what, we will never focus on the gimmicks, we will never focus on the pointing fingers, we will never focus on what has happened in the past. We want to focus on the new ideas. We want to focus on going forward. We want to focus on the bigger picture. And what is that? Making sure that you can live at home and making sure that your kids can also go to school and live here. Live here. Now move somewhere else, because at the end of the day of the prices of houses and at the end of the day of gas prices too, we want to make sure that you and your families are safe at home and are taken care of. And how does that happen? That happens with the Green Party. We focus on family, we focus on people. Thank you. My name is Jamal Blackwood. I'm your MPP candidate for the Green Party.
Thank you so much, all of you, for joining us. And you had asked for final remarks. And I have to say that with all the debates that we've been moderating here, I'm absolutely blown away by the quality of candidates. It takes a special person to step up and run for office. It takes a special person to knock on doors, show up and talk about policy and be so respectful. So I commend you guys as the leaders of what you're doing, and we're so grateful to have them with us and for you to be able to get to know your candidates, because it's one of these guys who's going to become your next MPP, who you're going to be able to contact. It's not going to be the premier that you can call or the minister of some portfolio. It's going to be your local MPP, your first point of contact, and they've shown up here to talk about issues that matter most to you. And Y Media is doing a full coverage on this election. We're doing it 7 days a week. We do about 8 hours of live programming just covering this in about 4 languages. That's English, Hindi, Punjabi, and Urdu. Thank you so much. And of course, your final words?
Yeah, thank you so much once again. I wish all the candidates all the best, and you're absolutely right. It certainly takes a lot of heart to throw your hat in the ring. So wishing you all the best. Thank you so much. And at this point, I'd like to thank all our viewers. Thank you. Take care.